Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people story. As a language model, I cannot create beliefs and realities in the sense that human beings do. However, I can extend the story to make it longer and more detailed while maintaining its coherence and original meaning. Here's my attempt. Moving to a new house is an exciting and stressful event. You leave behind memories and familiar places to embark on a new chapter of your life. But moving also comes with challenges, such as finding a reliable moving company and unpacking your belongings. Unfortunately, I learned that moving also meant dealing with neighbors like Karen. Karen was the kind of person who thought she could do whatever she wanted. She was in her 50s, had a permanent scowl on her face, and wore clothes that made her look older than she was. She lived in a big house that stood out from the rest of the houses in the neighborhood. Her front yard was immaculate, with a garden that looked like it was tended to every day. However, her backyard was another story. It was overgrown, with weeds and dead grass everywhere. I didn't know anything about Karen when I moved in. All I knew was that she lived a block away from me. On moving day, my family and I were excited to start our new life in our new home. We had hired a moving company to help us with the heavy lifting, and we were grateful for their assistance. As we started unloading our belongings, we realized that some of the boxes had to be put down for a little while so we could figure out where they would go. While we were doing this, our TV was sitting on the lawn waiting to be taken inside. I didn't think anything of it. I was more concerned with making sure everything was organized and unpacked. But when I went outside to grab a box, I saw Karen taking my TV and putting it in the back of her SUV. I was shocked and angry. I ran over to her and demanded that she give me back my TV, but Karen wouldn't budge. She claimed that since the TV was on the street, it was public property. I knew she was wrong, but arguing with her was useless. She drove away, and I was left standing there, fuming with anger. I took a picture of her license plate and called the police, but I didn't have much hope that they would be able to help me. Days went by and I couldn't stop thinking about Karen. Who was she? Why did she steal my TV? I started asking around, and I learned that Karen had a reputation for being difficult. She had lived in the neighborhood for over 10 years, and many people had had run-ins with her. She was known for calling the police on kids who played too loudly outside, and for complaining about anything and everything. One day, I decided to pay Karen a visit. I wanted to see if I could reason with her and get my TV back. When I knocked on her door, she answered with a scowl on her face. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want my TV back," I replied. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. I was frustrated, but I didn't want to give up. I decided to do some digging and found out that Karen had a history of stealing. She had been caught shoplifting from a local store a few years ago, and she had been fired from her job for stealing office supplies. I started to think that my TV wasn't the first thing she had stolen. I contacted the police again, and this time, they took me seriously. They launched an investigation into Karen's activities, and they found out that she had been stealing from other neighbors too. They obtained a search warrant and searched Karen's house, where they found several items that didn't belong to her, including my TV. The police arrested her and she was charged with theft. Karen denied everything and claimed that she was being framed. She tried to fight the charges, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. She was eventually found guilty and had to pay a hefty fine. I was relieved to have my TV back, but I couldn't help but feel sorry for Karen. She was a troubled woman who had made some bad decisions. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I had rented a room in a house with the current owner and occupant. I gave him a deposit to move in and the first month's rent, and everything was good. I did my job, I paid my rental obligation, and my privacy was respected. After living with him for 6 months, I finally got a better paying job and left. The agreement was that when I left, I would get my deposit back the week after. However, after a week had passed, the landlord told me, "I'll get it next week." Another month went by and he said, "I have not forgotten about you." Well, now it's been 2 months and he has blocked my number. I'm mad as hell. I want my money back. So I plotted my revenge. You see, my landlord was a drug fanatic. Halfway through my first month's rent, he showed me the basement of the house where he was growing 20 marijuana plants to mature into a distribution ring. He also had a drug den room, where he could use crack and ecstasy pills. While I worked hard at my job for not the greatest pay, He took unemployment and disability benefits while doping up back at home. My landlord also had an extensive weapons collection, including firearms that were not registered in his state and firearms that were not registered under him. He also had his own drug dealer that would show up to drop off drugs, among other things. He did this throughout my time there, and he thought he was safe until he started messing with my livelihood. So I wrote down everything I could remember and did my research. Behold the powers of search engines and the internet. I searched for Crime Stoppers and found that I could get $1,000 for my tip. I filled out every minute detail, including timestamps, photos of the growing operation, photos of the house, contacts, and his entire life that I had information on. I submitted everything and was given credentials to wait. My deposit was $350, so pocketing an extra $650 was completely worth it. He thought I wouldn't be a snitch, but he backstabbed me, so I decided to duck him over so hard. My parents lived in the neighboring town, so I asked them to forward me the town newsletters, and I also looked at the county police and news updates. 4 months later, I saw it in bold. Drug operation busted. The police got a wiretap warrant on his phone and staked out his property. The seriousness of drugs and weapons mixed, and the ATF was also involved with the DEA. A SWAT team executed a search warrant and busted into his house in the early morning hours, around the times I told when he was asleep. They seized everything, and he is looking at about 60 years for his offenses. On top of that, the police also apprehended the other drug dealer who delivered to him in the middle of the night. At some point afterward, Crime Stoppers helped me set up how I wanted my $1,000. The evidence was pretty damning. I got my revenge, but I also saved a community. The next one is a petty revenge story. 2 years ago, my husband and I bought our first house. The backyard had a laurel bush on the back property line that went 7 feet deep and had a chicken wire fence at the back. 99% of the roots were on our property. As our yard wasn't big to begin with, we wanted that extra space, so our plan was to remove it and put up a fence that matched the other parts of our property. When I went to notify our neighbors just to be nice, also we weren't asking them to contribute, they were super nice about it and welcomed us into the neighborhood. 2 days later, we were startled to see the neighbor's husband knocking on our back door, trespassing, because he said we didn't answer the front door. He said they didn't agree with the fence after all and that we couldn't cut down the laurels. One of their arguments was that the previous owners didn't mind the laurels. So, well, my husband and I are both attorneys and decided we weren't going to do the back and forth. We were going to hire a surveyor to come and confirm the property line. Turns out, almost all the laurel roots were, in fact, on our property. So, again, we told neighbors we were moving forward with the fence. After seeing the markers, they were pissed. My cousin and uncle helped us put up the fence, and the neighbor's husband could not have been more rude, standing a foot away from them, on his property, breathing down their necks while they put up the fence. Fast forward a year, and the neighbor's husband texts my husband asking to talk. So they meet at the fence. Turns out, they have a cedar tree about 7 feet in diameter on their property close to the fence that they want to remove, but are asking us for the removal to be done from our property. They need to remove a portion of our fence, bring the cherry picker and wood chipper down our driveway to our backyard, and do the entire project on our property because they don't have access to their backyard from the street. Obviously, my husband is dumbfounded, but still super nice considering the fence drama and says, "That's a really big ask." And this neighbor says, "Why?" And then proceeds to say if we say no, then they won't be able to afford the project, and then says he's sorry about how the fence situation went and hopes we can move forward. My husband comes and tells me and says he would be willing to say yes if they pay us and sign something saying they are liable for everything stemming from it. But I can't stop laughing. Literally, no amount of money they would pay would convince me to say yes. So aside from the liability factor, it felt great to say sorry not happening. We received no response, and needless to say, we still don't have a relationship with them. The next one is an entitled people story. I work at a company where some people, including myself, come in early to do prep work while the janitorial staff cleans and preps for the day. It's a huge place, and this particular section of the company is empty, except for me and a single custodian. There is a school crossing close enough that people who do it park in our lot and sit inside their cars until they see kids coming. A few weeks ago, our custodian Cindy was putting things in the trash outside when she saw the new crossing guard, Brenda, who was usually with her husband but was by herself. Cindy told Brenda that if there was an emergency or something, because it's dark in the morning in the back alley, Brenda might be by herself, she could ring the delivery doorbell, and Cindy would probably hear it. Brenda said, "Great, thanks." It should be noted that while I'm in the same section as Cindy, in my catacomb office area, I don't hear the bell ring. The next day, Brenda brings the doorbell. Cindy is busy working and doesn't hear it right away because she's far enough away in the big company. Brenda rings the bell multiple times and Cindy finally hears it and starts running to the back door to let Brenda in, who needs to use the bathroom. Cindy is frustrated because she thought it was an emergency, but she relents out of human kindness and says, "Sure, use the bathroom." It should be noted that Brenda is known in the area for being kind of trashy due to previous clueless Karen-type actions she's taken in the community, among other things. Because people know who she is, they also know she lives 2 blocks from where she's crossing at, and she drives. So it's literally like a 3-minute drive here, a 30-minute crossing window, and a 3-minute drive home. The next morning, Cindy is cleaning by a window, far enough away from the delivery area, and is jolted from a bang on the tall windows to see Brenda standing on her toes, pounding on the glass, looking in and screaming that she needs to use the bathroom. Cindy is frustrated, but motions to the back and lets her in. Cindy is embarrassed, frustrated, and flustered and tells Brenda sorry, she's cleaning, and can't always hear the bell where she's at, hint hint. Brenda is annoyed, said she was about to pee her pants, had a big coffee, and goes to the bathroom. She doesn't even say thank you. Now there's a pattern. So for the next week, Brenda rings the bell every morning to use the bathroom. And not just one ring, several rings, followed by a 10, 15-second pause, and several more if Cindy isn't fast enough. It's come to the point where Cindy is really frustrated because she's actually doing a job and is usually not within 15, 30 seconds of the door, so she has to hustle to get there to let Brenda in. At this point, Cindy already knows who Brenda is, where she lives, and is wondering why she just doesn't use the bathroom at her house before she leaves. She finds it hard to believe Brenda has some pressing medical issues she can't go without 30 minutes from a toilet to do the single job she's employed at. On Monday, Cindy tells me everything that has been going on. Cindy is a hardworking, honest person and is frustrated that her kindness was taken advantage of. She says she doesn't want to answer the bell anymore and asks me what she should do. I tell her we're not obligated to let Brenda use the bathroom. She's obviously abused an emergency tool available to her, and we'd probably get in trouble for letting non-employees in on a daily basis, despite the minimal security risk. I offer to go and talk to Brenda, but Cindy feels bad and asks me not to. She just decides she's not going to answer the door anymore and will pretend she can't hear Brenda. Maybe she'll finally get the hint. Apparently, the bell rang several times in succession, and Cindy heard it, but the call went unanswered. Later in the day, as school let out, Brenda decided to make up for lost time and started ringing the bell to be let in while we were open and full of employees. A third employee, Alice, who is friendly with Cindy and has heard the whole story at this point, opens the door and tells Brenda that this isn't her personal toilet. She's not to ring the bell anymore and she needs to figure out her own bathroom solution. The next morning, Cindy is outside taking out the trash, and Brenda awkwardly tells Cindy that Alice yelled at her. Cindy says, "Yeah, I heard that," and pauses to stare at Brenda to see if there's anything else Brenda was planning to add to the conversation. Upon seeing nothing but an awkward stare back, she goes back inside to continue her job. It's been 2 days, and Brenda hasn't rung the bell since. The next one is an entitled parent story. For all of my 27 years of life, my dad has been entitled. He believes that everyone needs to drop whatever they are doing to help him, but he doesn't lift a finger to help any of us. If a conversation doesn't involve him, he doesn't care, and will quickly change the subject to himself. He also believes that everyone in the house should have the same hobbies as him, and that everyone else's hobbies are stupid. I can go on, but let's get to the most recent story. I have moved in with my parents to help my mom while I finish college. My niece, 3, also lives with us. Ever since my niece came to live with us, my dad's temper has been on an even shorter fuse. A couple of weeks ago, my mom turned on all the lights in the dining room while she set the table. My dad came in and asked if she needed all the lights on. My mom said no and that she would turn them off once the table was set. For whatever reason, this sets my dad off and he starts yelling at her. Mom starts yelling back. I guess this threw him off because she normally doesn't argue back. He starts to storm off but turns back and flips the table. All my mom's nice plates and bowls go shattering on the floor. My niece at this point starts crying. He flings a desk chair in her direction. Luckily, this is about when I came inside and the chair hits me instead. After that, he left for the night, to a bar or his side piece, and I told Mom she needs to make plans to leave. This wasn't the first, nor is it going to be the last. She agrees, but finds it hard to leave because this has been her whole life. She says he has his sweet side, but after he nearly hit my niece with the chair, I am done. I have finally convinced my mom to leave, and we are preparing for a quick exit. No warning or anything. Once he goes on his trip, we are gone. This is going to hurt my dad more than he knows. He doesn't do any of the household cleaning. He also doesn't keep up with the bills or maintaining the land. That's all my mom and me. I wouldn't be surprised if he has to sell the house and land because he won't be able to afford it on his own. We shall see. Update. I wasn't planning on doing an update, but some people were concerned. So after I messaged my brother, he made plans to have my niece live with her other grandparents. They live in another state, so she will be safe there. According to him, my dad is never going to see her again. I took her to their house that week. My mom and I have made plans to leave. She has been second-guessing herself, but our plans are set. We have a place set up and have been slowly packing things and putting them in storage. We are just waiting for when he will be gone for a week-long class. Also, my mom has divorce paperwork ready to go. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.